I'm Lindsey Hall and I worship at St Anne's Chasetown. How's lockdown going for you? I wonder whether you're fed up of it, anxious to continue it, confused about what you're allowed to do now or not allowed to do now. I wonder whether you're sick of hearing the phrase. It sounds so severe, doesn't it? Lockdown, we're in lockdown. So dramatic and so kind of final or decisive. A friend was telling me this week that in Ireland they haven't used the phrase lockdown so much, but they've talked about cocooning. Such a pleasing word, isn't it? Cocooning. And something about it also feels a lot more positive. Lockdown has that kind of feeling of punishment, of restriction, of containing something. Whereas cocooning has that feeling of safety, of protection whilst we prepare to turn into something even better than we were before. There's a story towards the end of John's Gospel where just after Jesus has been crucified, his closest friends, the disciples, have met together. And it specifically says that they have met in an upstairs room and they have locked the door because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders. They locked themselves down because of their anxiety about the threat to their own lives as followers of Jesus, as friends of his. They locked the door because everything was confusing for them. They didn't know what was happening now that Jesus was no longer with them. They didn't know what to make of all their things they'd believed about who Jesus was and what that meant about God. And as they gathered in that room, it says that the risen Jesus appeared amongst them and said, "Peace be with you." The risen Jesus could not be kept out by lockdown, by a locked door, by them hiding themselves away. He was their friend and found them and joined them where they were at and brought them messages of peace. And it turned out that the risen Jesus had another invitation for the disciples who, at the beginning of his ministry, he called to come and follow him. He invited them to become his followers still, afresh, anew, followers of the risen Jesus, to build the church, to form communities of people who would proclaim his good news. And so the lockdown that they attempted couldn't in any way stop who they were called to be. It couldn't stop Jesus being with them. And even though it was only for a brief time, it turned out to be more of a cocoon than a lockdown. The disciples came out of that cocoon knowing that they followed a risen Lord, one who could not be defeated by death, and one whose calling to them would never end. So you might want to pray with me today that whatever happens about the length of time we're in lockdown, however difficult we're finding it, however secure we're finding it, that we receive this as a time of cocooning and that we ask God to help us imagine the transformation which can take place.